God damn, Quentin, some serious gourmet shit. I think you were going to give us some mediocre follow-up to Reservoir Dogs, but nah, you gave us some serious gourmet shit.
I don't need you to tell me how fucking good my movie is, okay? I'm the one who made it. I know how good it is.
You gotta be fucking kidding.
Here's the first movie.
Did you know I'm utterly insane?
Peel that pig and slice him thick.
The body count is always bigger.
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
And the fucking trees walked in those movies.
Hi, doggy.
What a story, Mark.
The greatest trick the devil ever pulled.
It's just like your opinion, man.
Life moves pretty fast.
If you want your sequel to become a franchise.
37 dicks.
In a row?
I'm your number one fan.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Marathon Me with your host, Kane.
And Rhys.
And welcome back to our second episode of our Tarantino filmography review marathon, whatever you want to call it. And today, well, let's just get right to it. We are talking about probably one of the most beloved films in terms of the film bro landscape. Today, we are talking about the one, the only, needs no introduction, Pulp Fiction.
It's here. If you took Interstellar off of its high horse, the film bro film. Probably like the first film bro film.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like every like person that calls themselves a film fan, like will go into watching this movie. This movie's almost like a rite of passage in terms of the film bro culture. You know what I mean?
Man, I haven't watched this since I was like a teenager, like an early teenager, and like I feel like that I got it. And watching this, you get why it has that appreciation and that love, right? But it's also funny that it's this like sort of this film bro entry, but also like most people that you talk to on a mass scale quite like this movie. Like it's not really like, it feels like that even though that, I think this is the film broiness to it, is that even though that everyone likes this movie or has some sort of affection for it, it's up to the film bros to go, yeah, you like it, but like I really like it. Like you like it for like some of the things, I like it for all of the things that this movie does. I think that's what sort of separates it and makes it, it gives it that status. But man, do you feel like it deserves this sort of high horse that it's put on?
Honestly, yes. In a sense, yes. Because I'll get my opinions out of the way. I think this is a great movie. I obviously I can't go without saying it's a great movie. Now, do I think it is quote unquote one of the greatest movies of all time? Honestly, no, but I think that just comes down to my own personal taste and opinions. I think it's a great movie, if just a tiny bit overrated, in a sense.
Okay.
Not to dig at it, I still think it's a great movie, like a very high 8 out of 10 film for me, but I think in terms of some of the Tarantino films that I've watched so far, there's just some that I like more, but I still think this is a very enjoyable movie. I will say, though, that this film, here's the highest praise that this film has been that I've heard from this film, is that this is one of my mum's favorite movies. My mum comes in when I'm watching this movie earlier this week, and she was like, "Oh my god, you watching?" Like she was full on like smiling ear to ear when she saw us watching Pulp Fiction, because my mum loves this movie. My dad loves this movie. That is the high praise that this movie is getting. Is Kane Murcott's mum and dad love this movie, so that's all the praise that this movie needs. We don't even need to talk about it. I'll just get my mum in to talk about it.
That's the sort of funny thing, though, right? That is a bit of a microcosm of what we were saying before, is that it's like this film bro film, but then like my parents also love this. I feel like if it passes the parent test, then it's then mass appeal, I believe.
Oh yeah.
Depends on who your parents are, but for me, it's like if my parents like a movie, then usually it's like, okay, then a lot of people would probably really like this. Well, all the love in the world to my parents.
Speaking of, before we like kind of get into the movie, I just got a little story I want to tell. Is that, you know how we're talking about like, you know, people loving this movie. So I I got home from one of Lawrence's our mate Lawrence's basketball game. It was like me, our mate Maddie, and their mate Sophie, and we were trying to pick a movie to watch. And Lawrence was like, "What's the movie with the black guy and the white guy?" And I'm like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Do you have any idea how little that narrows it down? Like, what the fuck are you talking about?" Eventually, I realized he was talking about Pulp Fiction. So we start to watch Pulp Fiction, and I'm kind of like, do I really want to watch Pulp Fiction with these guys? Because I feel like they might not... Because, like, I feel like with Pulp Fiction, it's not really a movie that, like, you can... I feel like some people can just casually watch, people that aren't used to, like... Because, like, this movie is very dialogue-heavy, similar to Reservoir Dogs. So I'm thinking, like, okay, maybe they might get a kick out of it the way that I do, you know what I mean? I'm not trying to be all, like, pretentious or anything like, oh, they won't get it, but, the type of person that, Lawrence is, no offense Lawrence, but fuck you. But like the type of person that Lawrence is, I feel like sometimes won't appreciate some dialogue heavy films. He does appreciate dialogue heavy films, but some of them might be, might not enjoy, whatever, that's fine. And I remember a third into the movie, I think it was just after the Ezekiel 2017 through 25 scene,
yep.
when he kills Brad or Brett or whatever, I paused the movie and I'm like, because like they're like, what the fuck are they saying? What's going on? Oh my god, it's just talking, and they're just complaining. Like all these guys will complain about like, yeah, I'm bored by this, or like, oh, I don't really like this. And in my head, I'm like, I fucking knew it.
Oh.
I fucking knew it. And I was also grinning ear to ear because I was like, I did not want to have my rewatch of Pulp Fiction be hampered by people that aren't enjoying it, you know what I mean?
Oh, I hate when I'm watching a movie that I'm quite enjoying and people are complaining about it. There's nothing that I hate more than that. So I am so not envious of this experience.
It's alright. At the end of the day, we ended up turning off the movie and we watched Saw instead.
the contrast of Pulp Fiction to Saw, that is hilarious. Because my experience of rewatching this, I watched it by myself, empty house, all the lights turned off, completely tuned in, and I thought it was a masterpiece. Like, for me, this is a 5 out of 5.
Yeah.
Oh, like I got it. It was a Danny DeVito.
I can't argue with that.
It was a Danny DeVito.
Yeah, I forgot Danny DeVito. Yeah.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's a Danny DeVito watching Mac interpretive dance. I get it moment where I was in bliss for these 2.5 hours.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned Danny DeVito since he is an executive producer on this movie, which I found hilarious. That is fucking amazing.
Do you know about how prevalent Danny DeVito is in like sort of 90s and like late 80s Hollywood, and like how many films he directed and produced at that time?
I don't know much about his producing credits, but I do know, directing wise, I know like he did Matilda and all that. I know he was in a lot of big, I know he was very prevalent in like in the 80s, early 90s and all that, but I didn't know really a lot of his producer work and all that, apart from obviously Pulp Fiction, which I'm like, wow. I remember like last time I watched this movie back in 2020, I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then rewatching it again, because obviously, after like, trying to watch it with Lawrence and all that stuff, I eventually did rewatch it on my own and, obviously enjoyed it. And seeing Danny DeVito in the credits, I'm like, what the fuck? That's crazy. Especially, being a huge It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia fan, I was like, having a bit of a giggle to myself, seeing good old Frank Reynolds as the money man behind this movie.
It's because you just wouldn't put those things together, right? That's why it's such a shock.
No, not at all. Not at all.
But also at the time of release, my thought was not alone at all that, man, the freaking industry loved this film. It got the Palme d'Or at Cannes that year in 1995, and at the 1995 Oscars as well. It was nominated all over the place for Best Picture, Best Original Screenplay, Best Actor for John Travolta, Best Supporting Actress for Uma Thurman, all of these things all over the joint, Best Editing, but it only won one of them. Do you know which one it won?
Because the only thing I really remember being nominated, because wasn't Samuel L. Jackson nominated for like Best Actor or Best Supporting Actor as well? In that movie?
He was also Best Supporting.
I don't know. No, I don't know. What did it win for?
Very deservedly so. It won Best Screenplay.
Okay, all right. I can't fault that. I can't fault that at all.
Man, that for me is the biggest strength of this film, because in my opinion, every last detail of this script means something. Like, it is just so freaking masterful, because people could argue that there's so much randomness that is just empty and meaningless, but I think that what's so skillful is that it gives this stuff that on paper that alone could be empty and meaningless, and it gives it purpose. I truly feel like it does. It just like, the intricacy to this script and where it all sort of comes together is like, it is. I think that I started noticing this in like the Bruce Willis segment with where like, you know how we get that scene of Christopher Walken talking about the watch and the significance of this watch, and like he's talking to like Bruce Willis's character as a child, and like this then leads to, like, it seems like it's so just like unnecessary, right? But then it gives the watch so much significance that then Bruce Willis's character would have escaped and gone off and gone away from the mobs and all that sort of stuff, but then only went back to the apartment and got tied into all like his entire segment and narrative. He got tied back in because he had to go back to find that watch, and then that led to the death of Vincent, and it led to like him and Marcellus Wallace making up, like all this sort of. It's. I think that what this script does is showing how little details and little things all have meaning and are supposed to happen for like our grand destiny to be fulfilled. And
almost kind of like, in a sense, everything happens for a reason type thing, you would say?
Oh, completely.
Yeah.
So like for me as well, it just has like the whole film has this great, I think, feel like it's an ode to 70s cinema, which I just love.
It's great.
One of those aesthetics that just put me in bliss. And the runtime for me just flew by, honestly.
Oh yeah, definitely. Like, I always forget that this movie's like a little bit over 2.5 hours. It does not. I don't feel it dragging on for me. Like like I said, I personally am not. I really love this movie. I find it a tiny bit overrated, but like, again, personal taste and all that. However, watching this movie, I'm just, when the movie ends, every time I've watched this movie, every time it would end, I'm like, oh, that's it? I want more, kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. I think that I just feel so satisfied by the end of it. I feel like that if it was only 2 hours or a little bit under 2 hours, I would want more. But like, that's where the long run time, I think, works for me, because it doesn't feel long, but it feels sufficiently like enough was packed in there.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't feel like I need to know the tale of like what happens to any of these characters past the point of the film, and just like it goes without saying, right, that all the parallel storylines just weave into one another so freaking well, I think.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And one thing that I thought after finishing this film that is like, it sort of pains me that there's no possibility for this, is that this is one of those movies that I wish that I could erase its memory from my mind. I wish that I could watch this for the first time not knowing anything about it, because oh my god, the lines that, like, it's so integrated into pop culture that even without seeing this film, the lines and scenes and moments are so like it happens, and you know when they're going to happen, and you know how they're going to happen, but you still, I couldn't help but having this massive smile on my face during all of them.
Definitely.
And I could just imagine watching this film, knowing nothing about it for the first time in 1994, and just being shocked by everything. Imagine that moment where the dude in the back seat of Jules and Vince's car gets shot in the face. Imagine not expecting that, and it just happens.
That'd be fucking maddening, bro.
It would be insane. And like, just lines like, like where like Zed's dead, baby, Zed's dead. Like that, just hearing that for the first time
such great
would
stuff.
be unreal. Like that.
Oh my lord, yeah.
When I get Alzheimer's, like this is the first stop for me. Is I'm going back to Pulp Fiction.
You know what they call a quarter pounder with cheese in Paris?
What do they call it?
Royale with cheese.
Royale with cheese.
You got a corpse in a car, minus the head in the garage. Take me to it.
Mother...
Who's Zed?
Zed's dead, baby. Zed's dead.
I love you, Pumpkin.
I love you, honey bunny.
Everybody be cool, this is a robbery!
What's Fonzie like?
Cool.
Correctamundo. And that's what we're gonna be. We're gonna be cool.
Oh my god! Like, one thing I want to say that was great upon this rewatch is that, like, obviously we mentioned you mentioned before that, like, there's so many lines and scenes in this film that are ingrained in popular culture that everyone knows. You know, if you haven't seen the movie, you know at least one line or one scene from this film. And going into it, I was a little bit worried that, you know, several of, you know, like the Ezekiel 25:17 scene, what do you call it? The dance that Vincent and Mia Wallace do. You know, all those big iconic moments. I was worried that they were gonna lose their magic with me. You know, because I've seen them so many times parodied and like just as isolated clips without the context. But going in, it still hooked me. Like the Watch monologue, for example. I've seen that parodied and done to death so many fucking times throughout my life that I was really kind of dreading watching that scene. But going into that scene and just listening to Christopher Walken deliver that monologue, I'm like, that thought just completely just washed away. Like, I was not thinking about any of the parodies or any of the references. I was just there in the moment watching that scene and being like, wow, this is some great dialogue. I am immersed. Please tell me more.
Yeah.
Like, and that's the crux throughout the whole movie as well. Like, I'm just there not thinking about any of like any of the worries that I had upon, like, before my rewatch. All I was doing was just sitting there and just being engrossed in this world and these characters that Tarantino created. That, chef's kiss to you, good sir. Chef's kiss.
A term that Quentin Tarantino uses to describe this film as well as a bit Jackie Brown is that he says that it is a hangout movie. Like, as in, it's a sort of movie that it just gives you time and dedicates time to you just hanging out with these characters to get to know them. And this
That's a great way to put it.
And like this, like watching this by myself, I felt like I was in the company of people that I knew and understood because of the conversation that like Vince and Jules have when they're walking up to the apartment together is just like, it goes on for, it feels a while. It's probably 10 minutes. Is it 10 minutes, do you think?
What were they talking about? The foot massage, massage debacle?
Yeah, the foot massage.
It goes on for I don't know about 10 minutes, but it does go on for a while and all that, but it does not drag whatsoever because you're just it feels so just like it feels human. Like that's one of the strengths of this movie is that, like, all the conversations feel so fucking just like human, like conversations that you would have with a mate in real life, like a conversation that you and I could have, or a conversation that Lawrence and I could have, you know what I mean? Like, this feels like just like real people having real conversations about just like random, almost meaningless, some would say meaningless stuff, but obviously in the context of this movie, this narrative, there is meaning if you dive deep enough.
Oh my god, yes. It's that human conversation that we were talking about this before we started recording, right? Is like the different sort of ways that people will have conversations and how like it frustrates us when we're talking to someone that it feels like that there's no point in what they're saying. And it's like, for fuck's sake, get to your point. And these conversations, even though that they're not leading to a particular thing directly, it still feels like there's a bit of point there. I think that talking about like this thing of like the meaning of a foot massage it feels so like nothing. But what that conversation does is that both of you will be sharing your own values and your own sort of ways of looking at the world by conversing about that sort of thing. Yesterday I was in a bookshop, and I was in a bookshop by myself, and I could overhear a conversation that two people were having when looking at books. And one of them just randomly, unprompted, goes, "Do you think that men need to pee more than women need to pee?" And then they went on to this conversation of like, I don't think that anyone could ever know that. And then the dude was like, oh, well, if I would ever go and like experiment with transitioning to a different gender, that's the only thing that I would be interested in, is being able to consider if one gender does want to pee more than the other one. And then they were like, okay. But even then you would be biased because you wouldn't know like the direct experience of being like born as a woman and then having that feeling. You would then be coming from this sort of thing. And it was just this really, really long conversation about that completely irrelevant sort of thing, right? But it meant something, and you were learning about those people listening to it in the way that you learn about these characters listening to them converse. And that's where like personally, my favorite character in this film would be Vincent, because John Travolta's character I adore because of like the ability that he comes across as, I think, such a dork yet so fucking cool. Like, yeah, and that's because of and that's very human. I feel like he really doesn't seem to give a sense that he knows like shit that's going on around him, but he's just like sort of guiding through the motions, and it's all down to like the nuance of his conversation that you feel like you get this guy.
Yeah, right.
Do you have a favorite character in this film?
Well, I mean, it's kind of, what do you call it? It's kind of not really a hot take, but like I just love Jules in this movie, man. Like Samuel L. Jackson just has such a fucking raw power in this movie that he's so commanding every time he's on screen, and he's just so fucking funny in the movie, especially his interactions with Vincent. He's so fucking good. I also will say I really love Bruce Willis in this movie as well. I remember as a kid, I really did not like the Butch storyline. And on both rewatches in 2020 and now, I really fucking love the Butch storyline. I think it's great. I think Bruce Willis is really fucking great in it. And in a sense, it kind of like plays in his whole storyline is almost Bruce Willis's character fighting his own war to get the watch. Because, you know, the watch has been through multiple, you know, through World War I, II, the Vietnam War, and Butch, while he's not technically, you know, in the fighting an actual war, he's fighting his own personal war, you know, escaping the mob, fleeing the country with, what was his name, Fabian.
That is awesome. I actually never even thought about it that way. That's great.
Like, yeah, he's fighting his own personal war to get the watch. Like his father, he had to stick the watch up his ass to, you know, keep it hidden from the Vietnamese. I will not use the term that Christopher Walken used. But, and then with Butch, he's going through his own personal war to get the watch back. Something that his father probably would have tried to do if the watch was taken. You know what I mean? Like I'm kind of wording it weirdly, but you get my point. Is that like this whole storyline is his own personal war.
You can really like when he freaks out when he thinks that the watch has been left and that he is that he's potentially going to lose it. You do like, even though that it's an extreme reaction, you feel the passion there.
You feel the pain and heartache that he feels, because that's his birthright.
I feel too that there's also this sense of guilt, and that's why he's reacting in that way. That there's like, man, this was like up my father's ass for years. And there's almost this layer of like, why didn't I do that at this point? Like I've let my father down by not willing to go the lengths that he did for this watch.
Not just his father, but like his grandfather and his grandfather before him, like his whole
lineage,
line.
yeah,
exactly. So like while it is an extreme reaction, you do kind of understand why he reacts the way he does. You know what I mean?
If they went through war to get this watch to me, then I will do the same to get this watch to my child. Like, fucking awesome, man. That is. I agree with you that this whole, like, as a kid, my least favorite part of this film was the Butch aspect, because there's a lot of time in the hotel room with, like, sort of his romance with is it Fabienne? Did he say?
Fabienne, yeah.
Yeah, with her. And like that, it's sort of just, I was like, okay, let's move on with this. But on this rewatch, I was just captivated by the whole thing. So worth it.
It serves as a nice calm before the storm, like his whole stuff in the hotel room, like before all the shit happens, because shit gets fucking nuts in Butch's storyline.
Oh my, it does go to shit once he leaves that hotel room. Like the day that he has had, and it is such a just moment of chaos that's the perfect microcosm for this film, of just one thing leading to another thing, leading to another thing, and just all coincidentally falling into place, right? And what I love here is that when he goes back to his apartment and then kills Vincent, and also like this is a heartbreaking moment where Vincent dies.
I always forget that happens in the movie. Every time I rewatch this movie, I always forget that he fucking guns down Vincent.
And like you really get to like this dude, and then he's just gunned down by this new character that is like our pseudo protagonist for this segment of the picture.
Yeah.
And what I really really like about this entire segment is that there is this really permeant moment where in the pawn shop he decides to save Wallace, even though that he does have this like he's his enemy, that Wallace was going to kill him, but then decides to like put his life in danger to save him. And I think that it ties back to this moment of killing Vincent, because he kills a completely sort of innocent dude and didn't care early in this segment when he kills the other boxer. And like he tells the taxi driver, he's like, yeah, I didn't even give a shit about that I killed him. But then why, if he's a like pretty corrupt dude, then doesn't really care about life or death, is then willing to save Wallace? And I think what it is that when he kills Vincent, albeit in self-defense, I think he saw him as a person in that moment more than an opponent, and it comes out because it's Vincent walking out of shitting, like a very just like human activity, completely powerless and defenseless, with a book in his hand, and there's this awkward moment of silence that just permeates the room where. Like, Vincent, like, the freaking nuance in John Travolta's performance there, where he's, like, in danger and afraid, but more just like, what do I say? Like, it's so awkward and hilarious, but the humanity comes out in that awkwardness, and comes in the way of the whole gangster dilemma that's happening there. Even though that Butch is gunning down this man that quite like was there to kill him, but he shoots a man coming out of the bathroom that has just read a book. Like, that is so full of personality and personhood that, like, I think for Butch, that's his sort of click and turning point of, like, if it wasn't for that, he would have left Wallace in that basement. He would have left him to rot, but as he hears him screaming when he's in the pawn shop, is like, no, I'm going to make a difference here, and shows how those little things make a completely different like result and conclusion, and so and that everything here has like this purpose. So he goes down, saves Wallace, and then in the process of doing that, Wallace forgives him. And this story that seemed like it was about defense and then about revenge becomes about forgiveness. and like it just takes a total turn that makes it about something completely different. That it was like he was supposed to be there in that moment to forgive him. Like that's what it seems like there was that. Oh, I love that.
Such good stuff, man. Also, can I just say that that's another thing that I always forget about with this movie. I always forget about the pawn shop scene. So going into this movie and seeing the pawn shop scene makes me realize that is really fucked up that The Simpsons would basically allude to that in that 20... Dude, even the fucking... I remember, because I've seen that episode of The Simpsons multiple times with Herman being like, looks like the spider caught himself a couple of flies. And I always thought that was a fucking line from The Simpsons. I never knew that was actually said in Pulp Fiction. So I was saying that as a joke, and then when he's calling Zed and saying that, I full-on had a freak out. I was like, no fucking way, that's actually from Pulp Fiction. Holy shit.
It is pretty freaking hilarious, right?
I was freaking out. I was like, no fucking way. And oh my god, yeah, I always forget about the pawn shop scene and like how fucking graphic that shit gets. Like, oh my god,
yeah, it does, man. You can definitely feel the ode and homage to Deliverance here, right? Like the film Deliverance.
Yeah, like you were talking earlier how like the film is like an ode to like 70s cinema. Yeah, they're going into that 70s exploitation kind of territory with, like, you know, Deliverance or like, you know, Last House on the Left, like, you know, those movies that touch on like, you know, sexual assault in a sense, you know what I mean? Like really getting into that graphic territory.
Oh, completely. And the irony in Butch's character being kidnapped by hillbilly rapists and this saving his life.
Yeah, fucking hell.
Tarantino talks a lot about Deliverance in a lot of these different books that I've been reading about him.
Okay.
Because he has this like I feel like I've heard this anecdote so many times that he has this very distinct memory of going to see Deliverance in a double billing when he was 9 years old with his mum.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So no wonder that he thinks about this movie a lot when you're 9 years old watching Deliverance in a cinema. Of course it's going to just imprint on your brain and then you need to get it out somehow. And it seems like that the way of getting this out is by making a film and pretty much recreating the scene.
Yeah, geez. Have you seen Deliverance, Rhys?
I have. I watched it recently in the movies here. In a double billing.
Shit, okay. Oh, fucking hell. Okay.
Yeah.
And here you are saying that I'm the next Tarantino, bro. You got to be the next Tarantino and put in your Deliverance references in your films.
Yep, exactly. Every film from here on out that we make, hillbilly rape scene is going to happen.
Oh dear God.
But like oh man, I could not recommend it more. It is fascinating. I think that I would have told you as well that on the day that I was going to the cinema to watch this film, there was a little like a sort of like garage sale-y, like little markety stall with all these secondhand books that was outside the front. And and as I was looking through that, on the way to the cinema, I saw the book of Deliverance, like the book that it was based, that the film was based on.
Right.
And I took that as a sign, so I bought this book and I started reading the book Deliverance too.
Nice.
I'm not finished with it because I pretty much after I finished the first chapter is when then I got into doing all this Quentin Tarantino research. So I'm going to jump onto that at like in a later date, but very much worth the watch, and holy shit, would be impactful as a 9-year-old watching it.
I could definitely imagine.
It's a lot to take in as a 22-year-old man watching it, let alone when you're 9 years old.
Right, yeah, fucking hell, Jesus.
Oh, man, intense. But I noticed that in this section, there's a lot of cameos in this film. Did you notice a Kathy Griffin cameo?
Yes, I did, actually. I did.
And also her like appearing later in Four Doors as well. 4 Rooms.
Dude, okay, that little mistake that you made where you call it 4 Doors, I want to talk about that when we talk about four rooms.
Okay.
I got a little thing I want to say,
but
we'll mention it later. I also, I don't remember if, I remember seeing her in that movie, but yeah, I remember like seeing her in Pulp Fiction. I'm like, what the fuck? Because like,
I feel like one line.
What do I know? Kathy Griffin. I don't know her from any of her like, you know, mainline work. I know that she was in an episode of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I'm pretty sure.
She's sort of like, I think that she is one of those people that their career is mainly based off of their personality and their presence.
Right.
Like I think that most of her money and legacy is probably from like sketches and like comedy appearances and things like that instead of
because all I know her from is like from like an episode of Curb, and also I think she was in an episode of Seinfeld as well, so like, you know, big Larry David head over here.
Man, there are a lot of cameos in here. Like Eric Stoltz is essentially the character Saul from Pineapple Express.
Yes, dude.
As like the drug dealer.
I had a bloody note. I have a line in my notes where this is what Eric Stoltz fell off after getting fired from Back to the Future. Damn, feels bad, man.
Yeah, I could not recognize him. I honestly couldn't. I saw.
Oh my god, yeah.
I saw his name in the opening credits, and I was looking out for him, and then I had to search up later in the film and be like, "That's him."
Oh, see, I already knew that like he plays the drug dealer in the movie, but still, like watching the movie, he's fucking unrecognizable. Like I'm just like, oh yeah, that's Eric Stoltz. Oh my god, yeah, crazy.
A couple of surprise cameos too is like Finn Wolfhard makes an appearance as Fabian. I can't believe that happened.
Shut the fuck up.
And then Jerry Seinfeld as the dude hiding in the bathroom in the apartment at the start of the movie. Man, it doesn't end. These cameos all over the place.
Insanity. I think I saw a Stan Lee cameo. I think Stan Lee played the Gimp in the pawn shop scene.
Oh, amazing. Wow, I can't believe that.
Yeah, that's nuts, bro. What the fuck? Wow.
My favorite segment though over the Butch scene is Vincent's date with Mia Wallace.
Okay, yeah, nice.
I love this because it is like that whole thing. It could be stripped away that they're gangsters, right? Like I feel like that it could be stripped away and still have a similar effect. It just is put to the next level of extremity because it's like the mob boss's wife that he's taking out. Because I just love this concept of like being hired or signed to like look after and take care the mob boss's girlfriend. I just find that so, and then also having the backdrop of this rumor being spread that Mia Wallace has had this happen to her before, and this dude gave her a foot massage and then got thrown out of like a 3rd-story window or something. And then it just gives this weird dynamic where Vincent wants to be kind, wants to be accommodating, but then doesn't want to go too far to make it seem like that he's hitting on her at any point.
Yeah, the whole segment gives a sense of him walking on eggshells, walking on thin ice in a sense, because one, like if a line that he says is interpreted a certain way, he could end up getting chucked out of a 3-story window the same way as the guy that was mentioned earlier. Like that's crazy.
And just their relationship then has so much complexity to it. It is hilarious. And like I think that Mia Wallace, played by Uma Thurman, does a great job of like the power dynamic is just completely off because she knows that he must be nervous about this. So it's almost playing with him there. That's how I took the scene of like why they enter the dance competition it's her playing with him like he doesn't want to go fucking near me in any way that may seem intimate. So let's go and dance together and we're going to win this dance competition. It is great. And then, like, the whole night that they have together where she accidentally overdoses by snorting some heroin that she thought was cocaine of Vincent's, which also, I didn't know that. So that's good to know that if you snort, like, a cocaine amount of heroin, then you will overdose. Good to know.
Yeah.
Just for any future reference.
I remember I was so confused by that as a kid because I was like... Because I always thought that heroin was like as a kid, you know, I thought heroin was like a liquid thing. I didn't know it was like a powder thing that you melt and all that. So clearly, what I'm trying to say is that 13-year-old me didn't know a lot about drugs.
Oh,
which,
damn.
I guess
lame.
Could be,
Why weren't you doing heroin at 13?
Oh, man. Well, you know what?
Late
I hadn't
bloomer.
I hadn't seen Trainspotting at that point, so, you know, it didn't make it look cool to me, at least for the first half of Trainspotting, at least. So
okay.
I didn't know.
Fair.
I'm sorry.
Okay, that's all right. That's all right. Give plenty of time to make up for it.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
The intensity of it, and, like, it is, like, it's like a sitcom situation where it's, like, where Vincent is looking in the mirror, and he's like, okay, I've had fun. Let's call it a night. Let's go. I'm gonna go home and jerk off and go to sleep because it's like, this is not gonna go anywhere good after this point. And then, and is like practicing what he's gonna say to leave the situation. Like, this is just such a, like, we've all sort of been there, right? Talking to ourselves in the bathroom mirror, like, giving ourselves a pep talk. And he's like, I'm not going to let it go any further. Gets out, and she's fucking overdosing in the living room. And,
And I'm sure we haven't had a situation like that, but, you know, I get your point.
It's the most extreme version. Because
of course.
Because he's afraid of, in his mind, the worst case scenario is having sex with the mob boss's wife and then getting killed for that. But then, arguably, something far worse is accidentally killing the mob boss's wife, and then far worse happening to you because of that.
Yeah, it's literally almost him being like, oh my god, like, I want to have sex with the mob boss's wife. How can this night get any worse? This is the worst thing that's happening to me right now. Comes out, she's borderline fucking dying, and it's like, oh, okay, yep, there it is. This night has somehow gotten worse. Oh dear.
The intensity is so poignant, it's so effective, and like, I was so immersed. Crazily immersed in this scenario where because also you like Vincent, you like him because of how freaking dorky he is, and also because he has the least amount of power he's probably like the most powerless, like, protagonist in this film, where you just want things to go all right for him because he's sort of putting himself out there by doing this task, knowing that he's in a lot of sort of risk and danger by it all. And so you're praying that Mia doesn't die. You're like, even more for him than for her, because you like Vincent a lot more than Mia. And
oh, sorry, you go first.
You're not really there going like, oh no, what am I going to do if Mia dies? It's more, what am I going to do if Vincent is going to die?
Yeah, exactly. Like, I think why, like, Vincent is such, like, a captivating character is, like, he's a cool looking hitman type guy, but yeah, he's dorky. He's like probably, in a sense, the most relatable character in a sense, because he's just a fucking dork in a sense. He feels the most human in a way, you know what I mean?
I really get a sense of this guy that, like, he has no idea anything about the crime world. He just happens to be there. He's sort of fallen into his life, and he's just rolling.
He's taken everything as it comes, and also, like, this, every time I've watched this movie, it always makes me remember, because, like, it always makes me remember, I'm like, wow, John Travolta can actually act in good movies, because, you know, now the whole thing is, you know, John Travolta's in shitty movies, you know, actually, not shitty movies, sorry, I didn't mean to slander the fanatic like that, but, you know, John Travolta, he's not a person that's really taken seriously anymore, but, you know, you watch movies like this, you remember, wow, this guy's really fucking good, and really damn likable.
Well, at this point in his career, before Pulp Fiction, Hollywood wasn't taking him seriously either.
Oh, yeah, this was like his comeback role in a sense.
This was 100% his comeback, and Tarantino was telling Miramax, we need John Travolta to be Vincent, and he got so much pushback for it, being with Miramax telling him no, like, they're not going to take your movie seriously because they don't take John Travolta seriously. But one thing that Tarantino consistently does is that he stays by his guns, and he's like, no, to make this movie, John Travolta is going to be in it, because I know that he can do it well. And because he's such a big De Palma fan and such a big Blowout fan, so he knew that John Travolta had it in him to do something so fleshed out. And he stuck by it, and everyone was the better for it. Most of all,
definitely.
probably John Travolta, because he got a freaking Oscar nomination for it, and people started to take him seriously again.
And then it happened again with Fred Durst giving him that chance on The Fanatic, playing a very accurate depiction of a person with autism on the autism spectrum.
I was thinking about The Fanatic the other day and how I got you this for Christmas on DVD a few years ago, and we have yet to watch it. So I'm
still holding off on it. I'm still waiting, man.
Thank
still
you.
Waiting.
One day, because I am desperate to watch this.
Oh my god, I've seen a lot of clips of that movie, and it looks fucking hysterical. Especially because he's clearly trying to play someone on a very heightened version of someone on the autism spectrum, and as someone that is on the spectrum myself, I just get such a kick out of watching it, because I've said on the podcast multiple times, I love movies that do bad portrayals of the autism spectrum, because I always just find it fucking hilarious.
We've been there. We've watched The Predator. We've watched The Predator, and we've seen how much they can freaking just destroy it. Man, probably best representation of people on the autism spectrum in media is probably Atypical, I would say. Do you like Atypical?
I've only watched the first season. I did enjoy it, but even then, it kind of, I upon thinking, because I haven't thought about the show in years, but it's good, but it gives me it has a little bit of the same energy as Sheldon Cooper, where it's very it's autistic, but kind of quirky autistic, not really the most realistic depiction, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, because it's a spectrum. There's different levels. Not everyone is all quirky or has is a genius like Rayman or type shit. You know what I mean?
That's a good point. There's not a lot of normalized autism in media.
Yeah, exactly. There's no there's no representation of autism where it's just a regular person that has a couple little quirks or some autistic quirks or whatever, you know what I mean? There's no film that portrays that level, you know?
Yeah. But I digress. The Mia Wallace scenario, it has a happy ending. Mia Wallace gets an adrenaline shot to the heart, is revived at Eric Stoltz's place, and the relief after this intensity when her eyes open up and she sprawls and wakes up with this massive needle in her heart is just
oh my
God. I was getting into cold sweats before this moment, and then could breathe for the first time.
Oh yeah, dude, my palms were sweaty during that whole sequence, man. It was fucking nuts.
And then I love how it finishes this segment, because you can sense this bond between Vincent and Mia from this traumatic experience that they just had.
Yeah.
The only thing to make this dynamic more complicated is for John Travolta to save Uma Thurman's life, right?
Yeah.
And that's what happens. And then there's this beautiful thing of this beautiful moment of Mia sharing the joke that from the pilot of the, what is it called, the Foxy, what is it called? Okay, I've got it here.
Foxy Foursome, I think.
It is the Fox Force 5.
Oh, okay, there we go.
And it is this beautiful sort of moment of I got this sense of mutual appreciation and love in not a romantic sort of sense, in just in this we will never forget this moment for the rest of our lives, and let's never tell anyone about it.
yeah, exactly.
And then we revisit Vince and Jules when we get brought back to the apartment, and then see all the people in this apartment get shot to shit, and then the whole situation happens with the guy getting shot in the head in the back of the car.
Yeah. Oh man, I shot Marvin in the face.
Yeah. Oh, what a fucking great line! What a great line!
And then Samuel Jackson's reaction is "Why the fuck did you do that? I didn't mean to do it, man. It was an accident."
Yeah.
It's honestly the funniest scene in the movie, man. It's so fucking funny.
It is great. And it's one of those things, right, where the moment of action is actually a split second, but then it's the aftermath and having to clean it up that is the scene and the sequence. Freaking fantastic.
Oh my god, yeah.
And that's where we get Quentin Tarantino's most sort of prevalent character in his films, it feels. And this is where I think his like terrible acting is the most sort of to the surface, but it is because he's surrounded by Samuel Jackson, John Travolta, and Harvey Keitel.
Yeah, definitely.
His acting is just completely passable, but can't compare to the presence of all these other people.
Honestly, upon thinking about this scene over the couple of days, honestly, Tarantino's kind of like whole like demeanor and like kind of awkward, stilted acting. It kind of works in a way because this is just a regular guy. This is just a regular schlub just chilling in his house and all that, and then has this situation thrown on his doorstep or thrown in his garage if we want to get technical, where it's a nice little juxtaposition between like these gangsters creating this fucked up scenario for this regular dude, and so of course he's gonna go around being all awkward and kind of be like, what the fuck. What is this? What is going on? Like it's just very awkward and very like kind of like just like eager just to get this situation over and done with. So he acts all awkward and agitated and thankful at the end in a very awkward kind of like just regular kind of schlub demeanor. You know what I mean?
I find it hilarious that he writes his character as pretty much the only character whose power dynamic is above Samuel Jackson. Like, as in, like, freaking Jules has, like, so much presence, power, and is so intimidating. But then he writes himself, he's this scrawny, pointy white guy, to, like, yeah, so Jules is going to be really, like afraid of me. He's gonna like. I just find that really funny that he writes himself into that role. Did you know that Tarantino doesn't direct this sequence?
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Who does?
Which brings us on to a little bit of Did You Know, Kane?
Oh my god. What am I gonna know? What am I gonna know?
So the question today is, who is the guest director that directed these few scenes? I'm not going to give you any options this time around. I'm gonna let you go because I think it'll be too obvious.
Okay.
But actually, I may give you this sort of thing. So, at Cannes, around like the time of Cannes, there were a few different sort of like independent, budding directors that became quite good friends. And in this, and especially two of them, Quentin Tarantino and one other individual, became very, very close friends, and pulled in a favor for him to direct these sequences that Quentin Tarantino was actually in. Who was this director?
Robert Rodriguez.
Correct! That is it.
I knew it. Yep. There we go. Fucking called it. Yep. All right. Cool.
So,
dude, I'm so proud of myself because I immediately had that name in my head like the second you were asking me the question, because like I know they're like they collab like later on in their films. Hell, they collab in 4 rooms. So they work like they direct segments in 4 rooms. So I figured like that's probably like the most obvious answer.
The first of 3 major collaborations in Quentin Tarantino's mainline thing.
I did not know that Robert Rodriguez directed a portion of Pulp Fiction. That's crazy.
I know, right? There's like they have a very, very like proactive, efficient sort of like simultaneous collaboration. Because like did you know that Quentin Tarantino directs a scene in Sin City as well?
I do. A scene or a segment? Because I know Sin City is 3 stories as well. Because I've seen Sin City. It's been years, but I have seen it.
I don't think that it's an entire like third of the film, but like it's a segment of some sort.
Right.
But like it is nice that they will sort of help each other out here and there and collaborate on that sort of level.
Yeah, because I do know that Tarantino did have a hand in the making of Sin City and all that. So that's interesting. That's cool. What the fuck?
So like around this sort of point where the whole sort of car gets cleaned up in time and they and Quentin Tarantino's wife doesn't get back, girlfriend doesn't get back and sees it all happen and stuff.
No, it's his wife. It's his wife.
Oh, okay. I'm probably going to edit that bit out anyway because I'm rambling. After this scene, and when they get back to the diner, that's where everything sort of comes together for me with like the theming of this film and what it's all about, and like that is where I start to just get an awe, and I'm like, yes, this is making sense to me, man. And
so what was the point in during the whole diner segment that it clicked for you? Was it Jules talking about like, you know, giving up the hitman lifestyle, or his conversation with Tim Roth? Like, what? I'm curious.
It is when he's talking to Vince about giving up the whole situation, the whole sort of lifestyle, because the whole thing is about destiny. I love the moment in the apartment where they're both shot at by this Jerry Seinfeld looking guy, and you see the bullet holes in the wall. Like, you would swear that the bullets went through them. And, and this thing that, and the thing that Jules is calling it is that he's saying that this is divine intervention, right? I think that this, in the world of the film, the bullets did go through them. Like, this is one moment of mysticism in the entire film. And I love a film that will be grounded in reality except for one very particular point, like Magnolia doing it, fucking golden. Like,
don't spoil it. I haven't seen Magnolia.
Okay, I won't. I will not spoil it. But I love when a film does something like this.
Yeah. Okay.
And it ties into this whole idea that little things can lead to bigger things that then the film contends is not a coincidence. That there's no such thing as coincidence. It's something greater than that. Like, it's Vince, I'm pretty sure, that says, like, he's like, it's two opposing views to destiny, this conversation between Vince and Jules. Vince says, you know, like, shit happens. Where Jules is like, says, shit like this doesn't just fucking happen. And, like, I think that when you think of a lot of different events that have happened in your life that are so particular that like to the point of I think I've already explained on the podcast, but like the closest friend that I've met here in Sydney was this dude named Benny that was backpacking from the UK that I met in a cinema bathroom off I said a one-off joke thing to this random, and then we started chatting, and then he became my closest friend here, and now he's going to be, like, he's like one of those friends that's going to be around for life. Whenever I go to Europe, I'm going to visit this dude.
Yeah,
and
nice.
That feels like one of those things where it's like, shit like this, but some people could say, yeah, well, coincidence, shit happens, but it feels like it's too big to just be something that shit happens, right?
It's too big of like a throwaway thing. It's like, yeah, all right, that happened, that led to this. No, it's like, It comes back to like what I said earlier, is that like everything happens for a reason. You went to that bathroom at that particular time, said that particular joke to that particular person. It was almost like predestined to happen in a sense. Like, this was meant to be. This was part of like, you know, like God's will, or the will of the universe, or like whatever you want to believe in and all that. It was the will of some higher power that willed this sequence of events to continue, you know?
Completely. And that's where the script is so freaking meticulously good, is that it pretty much, like, all these little details that seem like it's about nothing all do lead to something, which leads to another thing, which leads to another thing, which then becomes the narrative and the conclusion to these characters and their lives. Like, the foot-rubbing discussion, for instance, even though that it's just a random sort of, like, bantery conversation, it does lead to the anxieties and the overthinking of Vincent in the Mia Wallace situation, which then leads to the date going as long as it did, leads to the overdose, which also comes from him buying heroin earlier that day, and all these sort of things which then like leads into their lives. And then our lives are a product of those little things. And then even like this loops directly back into the start of the movie then, when they're in the same diner as Honey and Pumpkin. Is it Honey and Pumpkin?
Yeah, Pumpkin and Honey Bunny, yeah.
Honey Bunny, that's it. And yeah, leads into then that they're in the same room and the same diner as them robbing the place, and then like shows how this realization of Jules leads then to the realization of these two people to then change their ways in their life, and gets them to start to see the error in their ways. And like how one little thing can lead to another thing, that those bullets and that divine intervention, I think, in the narrative of this film, it's not saving Jules and Vincent per se. It's not saving Vincent because he dies a few days later anyway. It's saving these people in the diner. That's why it bookends with Honey Bunny and Pumpkin, I believe, is because like it seems so irrelevant at the start, but really it's how their lives completely changed because a watch was smuggled in the asshole of several soldiers and several different wars. That led then, like all these different interconnecting things then led to the redemption of these two characters. Like, it is brilliantly done.
That's fucking great.
And that's where like all the praise the script gets, 100% deserving.
Oh my god, yeah, man. Honestly, like, I mean, I can't even. You've said it fucking perfectly, man. Like, fucking hell, I can't even really add anything towards that. That's fucking beautiful.
If you're finished, I've got a closing statement. So
I reckon, yeah, I'm satisfied. Yeah, I'm satisfied. And honestly, talking about this movie in this episode, as I've said earlier, I did really love this movie. Found it a tiny bit overrated. I think it's definitely gone up a little bit more in terms of me loving this movie. It's gone up to a little bit more after talking about it. That's how fucking good this movie is, man. Like this is a great kind of conversation piece of a film, really. Like, you know, people can watch it and love it and say it's their favorite movie of all time, but it's a movie rich, full of theme, full of thematic nuance, and just great dialogue. You could talk about this film for hours and just get so much out of it. That's how I feel after doing this episode, and like I'm assuming you feel the same, yeah?
Oh, I cannot believe that like this script is the product of someone that is onto their second feature film. With such
outstanding,
the limited experience that he's had in the industry, to then come out with this and deserving of all the freaking praise that it could possibly get.
Oh yeah.
And it's because Tarantino tells us in this truly great film that despite the crazy shit that goes on all around us, no matter how improbable, how ridiculous, how fucking unbelievable, there's no such thing as coincidences. There's only destiny and only our lives. We'll see you next week, everyone. Don't forget to check out our Facebook page at MarathonMeOfficial, all one word, and our Instagram, MarathonMe_official, to keep up to date on the podcast. And hey, if you want to get into contact with us, email us at marathonmepodc, yes, the letter C, @gmail.com. Like a podcast without the ask.